Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
How's everyone doing? Are you good? Everyone okay? We need a wellness check every single day. You know what? Every single day at 5 is wellness check. Maybe we should call this wellness check instead of driving it home. Wellness check with Patti Vasquez. We'll start every show like this. We'll just do a little. How's everyone? Everyone take a deep breath. Take a deep breath in and hold it for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. Draw in positive vibes, strong energy. Exhale all of the negativity. I know every day. At certain points in your day, you have to remind yourself to breathe. I know for some people that sounds touchy-feely or whatever. No. There have been moments where I'm like, I wasn't breathing for the last few minutes. I think my ears are attached to my shoulders because I'm all tense. So please take care of yourselves. This is not just for the next 4 years. And that sounds so grim. No. I think what we need to do today, I came in a little energized because I realized, you know what? I'm a fighter. And Joan was talking at the end of her show about the Democrats that are starting to fight. And I think I needed a little bit of an injection of that energy today. I needed to know, and yesterday, I know that there were a lot of reps and senators outside of the Treasury demanding to know what Elon Musk is up to. And then that absurd press conference where Donald Trump specifically said, all 1.8 million Palestinians need to get the frick out. And we're going to own it. And then today they want to gaslight us with this 27-year-old golf caddy. I don't know who she is. This Evan Scholar, who's like, oh, no, he just did temporarily. No. You cannot. You will not do that to us. We are here. We listen. We heard it. We saw it. This is not January 6th. I mean, this is January 6th every single day where they're going to tell us that what is happening is not happening. And clearly it is. So listening to Joan and listening to the actions of some of the legislators, they're showing up at Mike Johnson's office and demanding to know what Elon Musk is doing because, yes, as a caller yesterday said, they've sent a letter. They're demanding legal action because our private information has been compromised. They're rewriting the code. These are code right. They're not just collecting the information. They are using. From what my understanding, they're using artificial intelligence because they have none of their own. They have to get artificial stuff. Sorry. Am I yelling? They are using artificial intelligence to restructure, the way we collect the information, the payment structure, and then they are covering up their tracks with about what has been changed. Look, I am just learning as much as I can these days about artificial intelligence, and we already gave it all away. We argue about we can't tell what's artificial, what's not. We have been doing this for decades. Even with autocorrect, right? Assuming what you're going to write is artificial intelligence, face recognition. We have been giving it away without any stopgaps, without anyone in public office or, I appreciate that Mark Cuban is very bold and out there talking about what is happening and why Elon's acting this way and that's consolidating power, that he can see how rabid this guy is, how psychotic he is. But we need to start acting, not reacting. We're coming from a place of reacting. And I do think, to someone's point yesterday, that we need to have a Project 2028 ready to go. What is our vision? What values do we want to make sure are upheld in this country? And for me, it is the access to health care. That means that no American should ever go bankrupt, lose their home, not be able to save a loved one or themselves. To me, healthcare is a right. That should be enshrined in our Project 2028. We need to workers' rights. Right now, OSHA is being eliminated. There's so much happening so quickly that it's hard to grab at everything. And I know I talked about how I'm not going to react to every single story as it happens. I am doing my best. But, I mean, again, yesterday when he said he wanted to own Gaza, that we're going to rebuild there, and immediately, even Republicans were putting Mara Gaza. They were putting up memes like Mara Gaza. They were laughing about it, like that Trump is going to own this beachside property that his stepson or his son-in-law, I don't know, his son-in-law Kushner, I guess, or was it one of the Trump Jr.? I don't know. One of these just flaccid, pale, white control freaks want to do with the world. Anyway, I just. At any rate, now today they want to tell us that, and now they're not even saying he was joking, right? Because that's always the cover. Oh, he was kidding. He doesn't really mean it. Like, they're not saying that anymore. They're just trying to figure out the way that they can manage what their plans are now. Once they say it, they're like, well, not quite. And I will tell you this, right? They can say whatever they want today, whether it's the talk show hosts, the talking heads on Fox, the press secretary. They can say whatever they want. When I left the studio, because I guess I have to listen to what these numbnuts say on other stations so that I can see how they're processing it. Last night, when I left the station at 7:15, a host in Chicago or broadcast on Chicago said, "This is a great idea. We'll make it a protectorate state or something like all this." He said, "Absolutely, two state nation isn't going to. It's not going to. Two parties. It's not going to work." And they were cheering last night, and now they want to tell us that didn't happen. That's not what he said. That's not what he meant. I'm not here for it. And again, Joan was talking about how some of the electeds are showing up, and I think Joan said, when they go low, we stand tall, right? Here's what I said since believe me, I love Michelle Obama. Love her. But when she said that in Philadelphia before the 2016 election, I was like, no. Why do we keep falling for this? Why do we keep trying to play by some imaginary rules that we think is going to make something better or preserve it for later? Or, well, we don't want to ruin it now because, no, we did that and they took it all. They took it all. And what I said, and I could find the audio for you, and I can't say it on the air, but I didn't say it then either. It's not what got me fired there. Although ultimately, probably. It was, when they go low, we go 0 F's given. We go scorched earth. Because they are low. There's nothing lower. You have to torch it. You have to burn this, and I mean burn it by not make it possible to grow another head. And we let that happen in 2016, and we actually have let it happen for decades as Republicans have built their media empires of propaganda, of manipulating emotions, of making people feel like someone else is responsible. Today, it's about the war on women's sports is over. I'm sorry. I've never even been at the level of athleticism that some of these folks participate at. I was a softball player. I was a swimmer. I played volleyball and basketball badly, and not just because I'm 5'6". I just don't have that kind of skill. But I was a very good softball player. I was a very good swimmer. And there, in the 70s, the 80s, and the entire time I participated, I was called a dyke. I was called, I was unlikable. That I was loud. I was brash. That I was I was too masculine. Like I should do some things that were more ladylike. And that was the war on women's sports, and they are still regarded that way. That it's just a bunch of lesbians that want to play. It rather than the fact that playing in sports for anybody of any background is that you love a sport. You want to exhibit the most pure form of love for something, and for some people, that's participating and performing at a skill level that really, I think, exemplifies what the human body is capable of, right? Whether it's Michael Jordan or Serena Williams, right? It is the ultimate, the apex of what we are capable of on the court, on the field, on the track, and. In the state of Illinois, I think I just saw this number today, and I should look it up before I go throwing things out there. Somebody mentioned earlier that it's half of 1% of Americans have registered to even participate in a sport that, they have to now check all these boxes about what their gender was assigned at birth, even though he said after the inauguration that now you must identify as a sex when you were conceived, which means I'm breaking things in here. We're all women. That's what we be, because you don't have a penis when you're conceived. At any rate, so when they go low, we go 0 F's given, and I'll figure out a different way to say that. But at any rate, okay. The phone lines are open, and they're all filling up, so I should probably talk to you guys rather than yelling anymore. I'm fine. Let me go back to this before everyone... I wasn't breathing. I think I only was exhaling the entire time. We will be right back after this on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
Donald Trump told the Senate to make recess appointments. No reason to have any confirmation. And oh, by the way, the people I am going to nominate are the single most reprehensible, unqualified folks that you have ever seen be a part of any administration at any point in time in the known universe.
Joan Esposito, weekday afternoons 2 to 5 on WCPT 820.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
That was a very short break for me to come back from. I didn't breathe enough during the break. I'll be honest with you folks. I did not breathe enough during the break. Hey, everybody. All right. Let's go to Jim. What do you got to say? What do you want to talk about? What's on your mind, Jim?
My opium dream this morning was Trump gets impeached for the third time, and his criminality, he ends up in El Salvador, and a prison is constructed for him by that dictator down in El Salvador. You know what's down in El Salvador, Patty? Believe it or not, Trump Jr., now this guy's a dictator for the third time. He's being sued by everybody on earth. And they're down there with the Heritage Foundation looking around.
Yeah.
People are so whacked out. But you know what kills me is these evangelists that are run up with the November election. Oh, the Democrats stole it. I was watching one program, and the demented evangelist said, well, we're going to check this time. He's got 3 or 4 evangelists on here. We're going to check that the Democrats don't steal this one. Now,
oh, boy, yeah.
But in the meantime, what's in their lap? This is what's in their lap. They're abusing everybody on the planet. The Palestinians, the immigrants, us. I can't believe I'm being abused. I'm waiting for. I told the today. I said to the woman. I said, "You still getting your Social Security?" I think that Musk is going to cut it off. Mm-hmm. The Muskrat's going to cut it off, and we go walk around, with our pockets turned.
Yikes!
Anyway, but that's what I believe. Again, I think the third time would be the charm. Because I think that by the time 2 years pass up, we're going to take back the House, and I think that what we rational thing would happen was Republicans that want to save their political lives will come around and think, "Well, this was too much. This was just too much. We may never win again at this rate." And they'll impeach.
I'm telling you, that's not an unreasonable concern.
Yeah, because. Think about it. I mean, are they really going to keep pushing 2025 to its final conclusion? Like, we're going to live under the guise of the Koch brothers or whoever scribbled this nonsense into existence? I mean, I don't think so, Patty. I don't think nobody in their right mind that studied American history is going to go for and run around the Constitution and around the citizen of the United States. But anyway, Patty, that's my opium dream, and I'd like to see him down in El Salvador.
So my husband texted in that his opium dream. My husband was texting. He loved that, your opium dream. Yes, it's a hyena attack. I think we should make T-shirts of that. Can we make a T-shirt that says "My opium dream is a hyena attack"?
Sounds good to me. Tell Steve I'm right with him.
There you go.
Patty, have a great show. It sounds like an interesting show you got, Patty. Thank you.
You mean the yelling? All right, thanks, Jim. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this piece that Heartland Signal did today, before the White House press secretary tried to walk back the statements last night that we want to own. And I say we. Here's the thing: the rest of the world makes no distinction between what this president is doing and any one of us. Look, unless you, are wearing something that clearly identifies yourself as I didn't vote for him or not my like whatever it is, to the rest of the world, we are dumbass Americans who wanted this. And last night, this guy said that he wants to own Gaza, that we're going to make it beautiful, we're going to tear everything down. 1.8 million Palestinians have to go somewhere else, and immediately the other countries in the area were like, this was it. And Netanyahu was praising him, saying, glad to work with somebody who thinks outside the box. But of course you do. You want ethnic cleansing. Well, just say that. I have been waiting for an American president to say they want ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Just do that. And then today, right, Representative Derek Van Orden says that he has he supports Trump's call to use U.S. military in Gaza. And then a couple hours later, the press secretary in the White House says, that's not what he said. He said that he just wants to just a temporary relocation was what we meant to say. Is that too much Valley Girl? I feel like I'm going back too much to the 80s. It's not quite she's Gen Z. No, that's not what he said. She didn't even say that's not what he meant. She said it's not what he said. I'm just going, oh my God. I'm going to have a very long rest of my life, everybody. Let's go to, right, Greg? What am I missing, Greg? Greg, am I yelling too much? Do I need more meditation? What's on your mind?
No, I think you're fine. I mean, I'm kind of at the same point. Like, I think a lot of the listeners, the reason I'm calling is, when I hear this talk from Trump, this bluster that talks about, taking over Gaza and all this, what a lousy thing to say to the people whose land it was back in 1948 or so.
Yeah.
What I would propose is that the good people of the United States who share the same religion, or is it nationality? You never can figure that out, And I'm not anti-Semitic, never have been. I have a sister-in-law who's Jewish. But what I would say is, where are those people speaking out against this and saying this is unfair? This has gone too far, this kind of talk. Because now we're getting into the area where he's basically saying that these people don't exist. He wants them to die. They're cutting off aid. I heard that was one of the big things, this U.S. aid things. That was one of the things they cut off right away, was the one for the Gaza people, the Palestinians. And, I would say if the people of, the U.S. who share the same religion, okay, if they're not willing to speak out against this, how about we have a swap? How about they go move over there and they say, we're now the Israeli people, and let the other people, the Palestinians, come over here. I think it'd be an even swap.
There you
let
go.
them have a good life. I'm just sick of this whole thing. My whole life. It's all these things. There's always these things. We got to be so careful of everything we do as America, because we can't offend Israel. We have to be their best partner in all this.
And
anyway,
that was the struggle, right, during Biden's administration was,
that's why he lost.
Well, right, but no, before that, before accusing Biden of being a warmonger or of supporting Israel too much, all those things, that there were people who wanted to criticize Benjamin Netanyahu. Essentially, this, like I was saying a moment ago, right, the rest of the world does not distinguish between us Americans and Donald Trump's leadership. The same thing. There were people who wanted to criticize Benjamin Netanyahu, and they were elected, like AOC or even Bernie Sanders, or a lot of people who would criticize Benjamin Netanyahu and the leadership in Israel, and they were called anti-Semitic. by conservatives and by other people, and there's not a distinction that was no subtlety allowed there. And I think then we end up getting dug in, as you mentioned, like what do I say? So to answer your question about being Jewish, it's considered both a religion and an ethnicity, right? Because it's a shared cultural, historical, and ancestral background. Even if they don't practice the religion actively, meaning Jewish is often intertwined with both religious and ethnic heritage. Just to help both of us out, I looked it up.
Yeah, if I could just make two final points in a more quiet voice. One thing that I thought of before the election occurred is I saw all these lawn signs out here, and the one thing that I was saying to myself, I really should go out and record the addresses of the people who have these signs and take a photograph, for example, so that after the election, if they win, we have a record of this. Because isn't it funny? In the last couple of days, I have four of them in my neighborhood that I know. And, it's funny that three of them, they were just taken down recently because I think they're seeing that they're not, those signs don't mean it. They've kept them up all this time. I don't remember. Do you remember a time when, and maybe you do, I just don't remember it, 2 months after, almost 3 months after the election, yard signs were still up?
I don't remember. I agree with you, right? This is the only, this election, this candidate's the only person I've ever seen people just keeping it up. Is that what you mean? Just always up?
Yeah, exactly. It's like people leaving their Christmas decorations still up. And, that's the one we all laugh about, kind of. And, okay, it's not the same at the same level of concern. But when I see these people, it's like they're putting it in people's face. They're the same ones that say to us, I remember back in 2000, get over it. And I'll never forget when they said that. After the election was, for all intents and purposes, given to George W. Bush, okay, they told the Democrats who were out there and voted in almost equal numbers, and they found out later that had the count been allowed to go on, that actually he would have lost the vote. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize that today. No, Democrats don't even realize that today. He should never have been in there. Yeah. But anyway, that's old history, right? No. It is pertinent and is entirely related to why we're here today. That moment in history when Sandra Day O'Connor decided that she did not want Al Gore to be the president of the United States, and she whipped the votes in the Supreme Court to stop the count. And I think it was like that Gore would have won the count in Florida. No, you're absolutely right about that. And I think about that often, that we weren't outraged. We weren't in the streets. We kind of knew it was, I think that we just went, okay, it's rigged. Well, we gotta, again, it goes back to this, like, okay, well, they got this round, right? They've manipulated the system to their advantage. And I thought, I guess, that Democrats, I was too naive and trusting that Democrats would figure out a way to prevent that from happening again. And they didn't, and part of it, I believe, is not just the corporate money that flows into a lot of coffers of Democratic candidates and electeds. It's also running on issues like not having the fortitude to codify Roe v. Wade. We had a window. We know we had a window of opportunity to do that. But how do you raise money if Roe v. Wade is codified? How do you scare people and they're going to take it away? I mean, that's an element. I'm not saying all of them, but issues like that, if they can't run on it, they're not going to. I mean, that when I ran in 2020, they identified gun violence and abortion to be the two top issues that resonated with Democrats in my community, right? So the candidate I ran against, she used abortion on every single one of her mailers, 5 rounds, over 100,000 pieces of paper saying I was a disgusting extremist who would not protect women and children in the cases of rape and incest and make sure that they had abortion. So that's access to abortion. So I don't tell you, Democrats play the same. That's me running against a Democrat. And they use how does Lindsay LaPointe raise money if Roe v. Wade is settled? Right? She can't. That's all she could do to win that race. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, they've got everything so rigged, and the last point. Have you seen the the movie by Greg Palast about voting, the more recent one?
I haven't seen it, but I know that how many millions of votes that were thrown out because
almost a little over 4 million votes were not. They were because the vote was suppressed, and we all know the most famous one is the one with the governor down there in Georgia, a real piece of work. And Stacey Abrams she should have been governor down there anyway because she really probably won, but because of voter suppression. And the one that he discusses in this movie so good is this one where they have the people can go in there and contest or challenge. That's the word. They can challenge another voter's right to be on the rolls.
Yeah. Citizens arrest, essentially. Yeah.
And if they're challenged, the government can go in there and they kick that person off the rolls, and they send a postcard to them to tell them that. But the postcard, maybe it gets there, maybe it doesn't, maybe it gets seen, maybe it doesn't get seen. But isn't that nice when it happens, and then on voting day you go in there and you're not registered? And that's what happened.
Yep.
And it's not just in Georgia. There was several of the states across the U.S., and they're trying to, with this latest thing, I don't know, maybe you can there's a bill right now in the Congress, and the Democrats already did something to make sure that it can't get there. They were trying to attach it to the one of the last bills recently, and they got it removed. But basically, it's trying to get this thing where voters have to have a record of their birth to be able to reestablish their voting. If they change, they move. It's hard for people to find those records. They're there, but you got to dig for them.
Yeah.
It might take you 7 to 10 days to get that mailed to you from the city.
Right.
Anyway, I'm very frustrated. I know, I'm not alone. I know that.
No. I'm glad we had the space to talk about it.
I'm a regular listener, and Jim, I call in on Jones' show maybe once every 2 weeks, and I always appreciate Jim and Dave and Brian and who's the other gentleman from Indiana?
Bob.
Bob, yeah, Bob. Bob or Bobby from Indiana. I mean, there's a lot of them, Roosevelt, and I listen all the time.
I appreciate it.
My brother used to be the one of the technical people there from the very beginning of WCPT. Anyway, I'm not going to give his name out or anything, but Joan Esposito, she knew him and stuff like that. But
okay.
This is way before both of you were there, but he was there right back in the beginning of WCPT.
Oh, that's great. Well, the legacy.
So anyway, nice to talk with you, and I always wish you and your husband the best with your family. And you guys have got a lot on your plate, and I don't know how you do it. I really don't. But
I appreciate that. I don't either. Thank you so much.
You've got such a nice voice and personality. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course. I appreciate it. Have a good one. Take care. Let's take a break here. Thank you. We'll take a break here. We'll continue our conversation. When we come back, the phone lines are lit up. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal.
Tom Hartman.
Autocrats generally, particularly those autocrats who have narcissistic personality disorder and are sociopaths, as is, in my opinion, Trump, typically do not tolerate high-profile people around them. They want to be the star of the show, and that's certainly been the history of Donald Trump. The only people that he will tolerate around him are people who, when he says, kiss my ass, they fall to their knees.
The Tom Hartman Radio Program, weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820, where facts matter. Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. I'm your host, Patti Vasquez. Coming up in the next hour, we do have some guests, but we have this whole hour for conversations with you live, whether it's by text or calling. And let me tell you, coming up in the next hour, we have a filmmaker. I'm really excited about this because it so leans into the Fibs for Wisconsin conversations that we have here. Of course, we've been volunteering with the Wisconsin Dems in their race for Susan Crawford for the Supreme Court, Judge Susan Crawford. And there's a movie out called, that Michael Graff has, starring Craig T. Nelson, by the way. So I'm super excited to talk about this film. But it's about a dairy farmer who's about to lose his farm. And essentially he has this bet with the banker who is a Bears fan. So it's a guy like out of Wisconsin. And they have a Bears-Packers bet for whether or not the dairy farmer is going to be able to keep his farm. So that's coming up after 6 o'clock. I'm really excited to talk to Michael Graff and find out more about his movie that has a run here in Chicago. So we'll find out how you can see that film. And we also have a guest coming up at 6:30, Fix the Courts. Oh my God, please. We're going to talk to Gabe Roth, Executive Director of Fix the Court, and we'll see what happens. Let's get to Myrna. Myrna has some thoughts. What's on your mind, my friend?
I'm really upset. I'm upset with you big time. I need your Visa card number. You owe me $185. You blew the speaker on my phone from all your yelling.
I'm sorry.
So I need a new phone, okay?
Sorry, everybody. And I appreciate that. I am very sensitive to certain sounds, especially when someone makes the speaker buzz. So I get that, and I will. Hold on a second. In order to avoid that, maybe I just need to have this run underneath the whole show all the time, right? So that I don't yell. Maybe that will help me not yell. Is this better? This is for those of you who miss NPR and can't tune in over there. I'll make sure that you can hear every single word enunciated as I talk to Myrna. Myrna, what's on your mind, my friend? What's going on? Is she sleeping?
Oh, I fell asleep there for a second. Hey, you know what? I find it really interesting what's going on with the Gaza Strip. Think about it. He wants to go over there and just knock everything down and make everything really pretty for all of his rich friends.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay for that?
Yeah.
We have to send our troops over there, so that's our tax money that's going to be paying for them to be there.
Yeah.
Who's going to be who's profiting? All of his billionaires.
I got it. You know what's so funny? I heard Jones' guest say it like he was about to say poop and get off the pot, and he went a different way. So we're all in that space of having our filters a little bit, not quite securely attached. Yeah. So I get it.
He wants.
I think you can say it.
No, I said shoe.
Shoe. She said shoe. Yeah, there you go. Shiitake. Gotcha.
So he wants to take all this money away from programs here. He wants to get rid of people. He wants them. They sent letters to the employees from the CIA, offering them a buyout also, and they want to get rid of that. The people that they wanted to get rid of at the first program that they offered, they wanted 10% of them to take the buyout. They only got 1% so far. So now there's a threat that they may have mass firings there.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get the 10%.
I just don't understand this. I mean, this is it's not an administration doesn't seem like the appropriate word to use for the white, like this, this band of bigoted billionaires, I guess. Oh, I kind of like that band of big. That's a lot of B's. It's triple B. They just, I mean, it really is about the money grab. There's no getting around it at all.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's our money. It's not their money. We're the taxpayers.
No.
They want to take our money. They want to make cuts, and it's money that we are spending them.
No, we're just standing in the way of their money. That's it. We don't matter. No, really. Like, they don't understand why we exist, which is so weird because they can't have all the luxurious things that they have without us making it, without us providing that wealth. We are the resource. That's why they call it human resources. That's why they want us to get pregnant and have babies. They want to create more consumers so they can continue to hoard all that wealth and serve them.
The thing is, but they're not looking at the other side. If you're staying home having babies, you're not working. You're not going to have money to buy Pampers and stuff like that.
If you have boys, if you're a woman who has boys, you're creating. They don't care about us. We have one. We're incubators, baby. Just create the next workforce, and then what we create is a workforce and the creators of more workforce. That's all they want from us. That is literally all they want.
But then men are going to get so tired and exhausted from working, they're going to die from heart attacks.
Well, that's so masculine. That's such a power move by them, right? Outside, yeah.
and the thing is, we don't think of okay. See, this is, and like I said, I've said this before. I'm not man bashing, but
me neither.
Men don't think things through the way women do. They just see, oh, cool, that's a nice car. I'm going to buy it. Who cares that it costs $400,000? My insurance will be my mortgage payment. But it's a nice-looking car.
Yeah.
And women are like, oh, that's a nice car, but do my kids fit in there? Am I going to be able to get gas because I don't have any more money? And that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, so I have the wonkiest thing to tell you that I only know because of Declan, my son's disorder, which is there's this network of fibers that run down the middle of your brain. It's called the corpus callosum, right? It connects the hemispheres, and it makes everything, every single thing you do possible because you need the left and right sides of the brain to walk, to talk, to have fine motor skills, to have executive functioning, understanding language, all those things, right? So what they know is that women have a thicker corpus callosum. That highway between the left side and right side of the brain is thicker, which means more information is going left and right, left and right. I mean, so it's going back and forth. Men's corpus callosum is much thinner. They don't want information. They just make decisions. And the comparison that I make when I tell this story on stage, I do some speeches for medical groups and educators. So think about, like, for me, my example is this. Like, say I'm going to, every year my husband and I go to this party. It's a barbecue in the summertime, right? And I remember, I don't drive. He drives, right? So we're driving and he takes a left turn. I'm like, that's not where you take the left turn. The left turn is by the post office. Remember the post office kind of made out of like bricks. And I remember that there was an elm out front. Was it an elm? But there was elm disease in the neighborhood. So I don't think it was an elm tree. Oh, by the way, we need more bags for our leaves because we ran out. And don't forget, we can't put them on the sidewalk. We got to put them in the alley. Otherwise, the city won't take them. And the flag was half mast. And I don't know why the flag was half mast. And here's the thing. I remember, because we remember all of that stuff, right? We remember, we have that, whether it's sense memory, and our brain holds on to that and holds on to the information. And it's not about all the things at the post office. It's about where the left turn is. Right. But we have all that other excess stuff that informs that memory, and they just take the left turn. And so it's like a windshield wiper for our brain, like left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, with all that information. Right. With the understanding, like you said, we're going to buy a car. We should be a minivan. How many kids can you fit? But what if it's not just our kids and there's kids that are going to play, go to parties and we're going to pick them up for practice. Right. We extrapolate all that stuff, and they're just like, no, I like this car. And that's, and again, Myrna and I are not man bashing. It is a scientific fact that men use less information to make decisions. That's all I'm saying, folks. That's yeah. Okay. Anyway,
and that's why you see very few female-led countries getting into wars. Think about it.
I'm saying,
talk things out.
Yeah, we use information.
Don't go and say, my dad can beat up your dad. That's the male mentality of a lot of leaders.
Right.
And the last thing, have you seen the new edition of MAGA T-shirts?
No. Do I want to see? I do not want.
You're going to want to buy it. Your mom, your whole family are going to be wearing them.
Shirts.
You're going to want to wear them. It's a Mexican flag, and MAGA stands for Mexicans aren't going anywhere.
By the way, I'm wearing. You can't see it because we're not broadcasting broadcasting online, but I do have my Mexican flag hat on today with my Chicago pizza T-shirt as well. The best thin crust pizzas in Chicago. But we're not broadcasting live. But anyway, all right, I got to run. I got calls on the line. Thank you, Marina.
Okay,
take care. Let's take a break here. We'll be right back after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. We're glad you're here.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
Try to remind myself to breathe. I asked you all to take a deep breath at the beginning of the show, and I've got to remind myself that as well. For those of you who are listening and are like, she talks too fast, I can't understand what she's saying. Just try to let me help you with this a little bit, because it's not going to change. I'll tell you that right now. I have different speeds. Like right now, I can acknowledge that perhaps I was racing through a few thoughts. If you'll bear with me and understand that I have these sort of stretches where I go on a rant, and sometimes it's very fast. It's just the way my brain processes. I got a lot to say. I don't have a lot of time to do it in, and I'm just trying to get everything out there. But I appreciate your concerns and disdain. Also, I don't appreciate your disdain, but I acknowledge it, and I will do my best to be aware of it. But it's just the way I talk sometimes. I can't help it. So I appreciate every station that has given me the opportunity to play jazz with my voice, is all I'm saying. Hey, Roosevelt, how you doing?
Patty, thank you for taking my call.
Yes.
Seems to me that I always call around this time, so I'm going to not try to waste too much time. First of all, I feel so good right now that finally the Democrats found the spine.
Agreed.
This is what I said this morning on a Spanish Mexican station. I go, you know what needs to happen? Something drastic, such as Democrats being arrested.
Yeah.
We have to draw attention to the problem, and it's about time. And I want to give credit where credit is due. And we did it again. What do I mean by that? By putting in front of this Jasmine Crockett, a black woman. Always black women are in front and center of all that happens.
A lot of heavy lifting all the time. I mean,
the Democratic Party. I feel fantastic today, Patty. I feel fantastic because I dropped a bomb on a Spanish station. It just so happens that the moderator, the lady that runs the show, she runs a totally different show. You wouldn't recognize it. She practically demands respect for all sides. Everybody's got an opinion, such as when you started your show, come to think of it. So I said, I'm not holding back anymore. I don't care if you guys throw me out of the show, I'm barred. I don't care. The time has come to do something.
Yep.
I go, so then I have all these people that criticize me and try to correct me on the way I speak Spanish, the words I use, because I wasn't raised in Mexico. I had 6 years of from the age of 5 or 6 to 11. That's all I had. Mm-hmm. In Mexico, it's called primary school, which means grammar school. It's 6 years in Mexico. So I have not stopped saying this, which is I don't care if I make mistakes. You could criticize the way I talk. You could criticize the fact I don't have respect, because I said I'm tired of having respect, meaning what you said. I'm connecting that to what you said about Michelle Obama. You know the rest.
Yeah.
So I'm not having any respect. I'm going to be from now on the Michael Jordan of this radio station. What do I mean by that? I'm going to say what I'm going to do, then I'm going to do it. Okay? I'm going to talk smack. I don't care if you like it or not. If you, as a moderator, feel the urge to throw me out, be it. So be it. I said, how can I respect somebody that has had 34 counts, 34 accused of 40, and he was guilty on all 34? How can I respect people that call this show, and I'm going to respect them, and they still support this guy? I go, my aim is to get rid of all the Trump supporters on the station. There's a guy that constantly used to do battle with me. He don't call anymore. So I told the lady today, it's been a week and a half, he hasn't called. And I said, whatever happened to the person that used to say the genocide of Harris and Biden?
Yep.
I go, where's that guy at? She goes, Mr. because they call me Mr. Roosevelt. He texted us a couple of days ago. He says he don't want to call anymore because you bash him too much. I go, wait a minute.
Welcome to the party, pal.
So he doesn't have any stones to come on the show and support anything that this guy does, or to get together with us and help us rescue us from the hole that him himself contributed to this guy, because he voted for him. He stood up for him. He used to, debate me, this guy. I go, forget about this guy. So this is what I said to them. I said, the time has come. I don't care if you guys criticize me. I don't give a you-know-what, but in Spanish it's different. Me importa mama. That's the way they say it. Ask your mother what that means. Me importa mama. I'm saying it. And the last caller you had, Myrna, she knows what I'm talking about.
Okay. All right.
So what I'm going to say is this. Check out what's going on in Venezuela. They were bamboozled, taken over, and they promised them the Republicans. Who are the Republicans? Rubio. I go back to Rubio and the Cuban Americans. Where are the Cuban Americans when Trump just canceled the TPS for Venezuelans, which started in 2023 by Biden. TPS. Is it called TPS? Yeah, it is called TPS.
Yes.
Okay, so where are the Venezuelans? Where's Rubio defending the rights of these human beings? Because all the Cuban Americans that are political are all crooked, they're all on the take, or they want to be part of Trump. They give up everything, like Rubio. You're giving up everything that you have. He does not have a future in politics, I'm sorry to say, because he's kept silent. And he supported Trump sending people to El Salvador, Americans, not illegals like you guys call it out there, you Trump supporters, not illegals, Americans. When does that happen? Who's going to guarantee the safety of these Americans in El Salvador? We don't know what Bukele is doing over there to keep the peace. We don't know. And it reminded me. I'm going to connect that with Guantanamo Bay.
Right, 20 seconds.
Gitbo. And do you remember a guy called Mancow? How he kept on saying that wasn't torture? There's a famous video of 20 seconds of Mancow.
I know. He couldn't handle the waterboarding. I know. It was 7 seconds. No. It was 7 seconds. Legit. Yeah, he couldn't take it. No. From the minute it happened. Yep.
Last thing I'm going to say. How do I send you what I just found out about the Venezuelans? Through the same phone number? I just texted or what?
Yeah, you can send it to the text. Yeah, 773. Yeah, I'll see on the text screen.
I wasn't sure because I get the same answer all the time.
Well, I will send you confirmation. Sound good?
Oh, great. Thank you. I'm going to send you a couple of things.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you, Roosevelt. Thank you. And let's get to Evie before we go to the news. Well, hey, Evie, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right.
When you were 9 years old, you had your Mae West impersonation. You did an audio jam and do party.
Yes, I used to do Mae West when I was 9. Well, I didn't hear the rest of that. What was that, Evie?
It was an audio jam and do party radio show.
Audio jam? No, it was specifically a kids show in the 19.
Yeah, do party or audio jam. It was a radio show.
Oh, really? I wonder. Do they still have the recordings? Do you know? I wonder if they have the archive, because wouldn't it be fun to find some of those?
I used to have tapes. I don't know where they are now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, thank you for telling me. I appreciate it, Evie.
Sure.
Take care. All right, thank you. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye. Let's take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk to filmmaker and screenwriter Michael Graff after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we drive it home. Want to say hello to our friends listening on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota, as we broadcast live here out of Chicago on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. And again, if you haven't had the chance to check out our TuneIn app, that way you can listen to the show wherever you are, anytime. You can also find our podcasts everywhere you listen to podcasts, like on Apple and Spotify and Amazon, because you don't want to miss our conversations like the one we're having right now with the screenwriter of Green and Gold. Michael Graff joins us. Congratulations on this film. I'm reading all kinds of great reviews. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
Hi, Patty. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
It's, what's funny is that I'm looking at the website Heartland Film. We're actually Heartland Signal, so I feel like there's a symbiosis that is unquantifiable here. First of all, yes, it was. Well, our friend Scott Marcus introduced us by email, and Scott and I have known each other for over 20 years, and I know how much he works in this industry and encourages other writers. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up, my friend?
I'm actually from upstate New York. I grew up right on Lake Erie, just south of Buffalo. So
okay.
Then lived all over. Lived in Los Angeles for a while. That's where I started working. Worked in the entertainment business for a number of years. My first job out of college was at Disney, and did that. And then I made the mistake of visiting Madison, Wisconsin on a beautiful spring day, and I never left.
What? That's amazing. I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Okay, so you're from upstate New York. You go. So I mean, when you got involved, when did that sort of kernel of desire to go to Los Angeles? Was that something you knew you wanted to be in the film industry? How did that emerge?
Yeah, I majored in film and television when I was in college, and when I was in high school, we were real lucky. Our high school had a TV station, and I worked that, and I just my uncle was a filmmaker, and when I was 15, I kind of got bit by the bug. I spent a summer on location with him, and I never looked back after that. So I was kind of hooked.
That's amazing. Okay, so you're in Los Angeles working at Disney, like in production, in what sort of capacity at Disney Studios?
Disney. When I was there, I worked as a production assistant, and it was. I'm old enough. It was when Disney still did the Disney Sunday movie on ABC.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I was a production assistant on that, and then I went and I worked for a special effects company in Los Angeles and Hollywood called the Post Group, and we did all of the special effects for Star Trek: The Next Generation, and we edited Pee-wee's Playhouse, and I worked on Law and Order and Beverly Hills 90210, and so I kind of, they say in production there's three steps to production. There's screenwriting, there's the writing, the production, the post-production. I started backwards. I started in post-production, and then I went into production, and now I'm writing. Now I'm in the pre-pro.
So at what point do you end up visiting Madison, Wisconsin, and all of this, doing all this tremendous work, whether it's for Disney or all these great shows that you were talking about? I need to know about this trip to Madison and how you got swept away. Look, I love Madison, but okay, tell me about this journey.
I actually was looking for work in Chicago. I had met a lovely young woman in Los Angeles, and I am a bit of a romantic, and I followed her to the Midwest, and ended up in Madison, and unfortunately that didn't work out.
Oh, sorry.
But Wisconsin reminded me a lot of upstate New York, and it was kind of serendipity. I got an opportunity to work for a production company, and I was in my early 20s and got a chance to produce and direct work for branded content for Miller Brewing and for Harley Davidson, and it just worked out really well.
It sounds like it was kind of not for nothing, I love Wisconsin. I actually organize volunteers to go up on campaigns. It's called FIBS for Wisconsin.
I've heard of this group.
That's me.
I know this group.
That's my little.
Okay.
Those are my buttons that were designed by Harebrained Designs. So that the buttons that we pass out, those are that's from us. And
oh my God.
Yes, that's us. But at any rate, so not for nothing is what I'm saying. Is it seems because, everyone leaves to go. They go to New York. They go to Los Angeles. I've stayed in Chicago because every time I go to LA, like my chest just it hurts going there. I just came back, and so I completely appreciate the love for Madison, Wisconsin. I was teasing earlier. It's just fun. It's just fantastic that you bring the expertise. You kind of like reverse engineered it, right? So you bring this. I love that. I love that for you and for Wisconsin and for the Midwest. Okay. I'm so excited.
I think I'm the only guy in the industry that actually left Los Angeles, went to the Midwest, and then started directing.
Which is fantastic.
But I'm with you. I love Los Angeles. It's great when you're in your 20s, but the older I get, I have a fondness and affinity for the Midwest, and I wouldn't leave here for $1 million.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm in love with the story already. Okay, so you're in Madison. You're doing this work for Harley Davidson, for other companies. Tell us about how this story, Green and Gold, emerges because it so encapsulates us, Wisconsin and Illinois, and also rural Wisconsin. And what's okay? Let me take a step back, because when I was a kid growing up, some of the big movies that were some of my favorites were Places in the Heart, The River. There were 3 of them. There was do you know what I'm talking about? These movies about owning farms and things like that, and losing the farms, and we haven't had that. And this movie sounds like it's that, the American dream, and passing along generational wealth and tradition. So tell us about how this came to be.
Sure. So, the story is about a 4th generation Wisconsin dairy farmer, and he's fallen on hard times, and the story takes place in the early 90s, and it's loosely based on a real story, actual events. But this dairy farmer is desperate. His farm is going to be foreclosed on, and he literally bets his family legacy and the farm on whether the Green Bay Packers will win the Super Bowl or not. And this is the early 90s. It's when Brett Favre has just come to play for the Packers, and the Super Bowl, the Packers are coming out of their very dark, lean years when they were always beat up by the Bears. So it was, but it's, and the story is, the story is told through the eyes of his granddaughter, she's in her early 20s, and she wants to pursue her passion of a career in music. She's a beautiful musician, has a beautiful voice, and she's torn between staying to help her grandparents save the farm and whether to go pursue her own dreams. And so it's kind of a layered story, but it's based on some actual events that happened back in the 90s, and it's a beautiful, beautiful story. And you're right, this kind of story hasn't been told in a long, long time. It's got a lot of heart. It was written as really a love letter to all things, not just Wisconsin, but all things Midwest. If you grew up in the Midwest and from a small town or from a farm, I think you'll appreciate it. So it's gotten great response. I heard that it's got 99% approval rating from audience approval on Rotten Tomatoes, which is unheard of. So that's incredible. It's very, very humbling. But I'm just glad that we've been able to make a connection with people.
Well, you have me at having cast Emmett Walsh. I'm sorry. What in the world? This is a tremendous actor. And the whole cast is amazing. I'm so excited to see this. First of all, before we continue our conversation, because I'm going to keep you longer than I said, how do folks see this? Where is this being shown?
It is. I know it's in the theaters right now. I know Marcus Cinemas has it at all their theaters throughout February 13th. It's playing. So I check your listings with Marcus Cinemas. I know that there's some other theaters that are showing it too. But it's in movie theaters right now.
So the movie is Green and Gold. You can also go to Heartland Films, their website as well, and heartlandfilm.org for more information about the movie. And so when you filmed this, by the way, I was in New Orleans during their snowstorm, and of all places, I was at the Carousel Bar, and this woman from Door County, Wisconsin, sits down next to me, and I wish I had known about your film beforehand. I'd been like, so were you in the movie that filmed up there? So tell us about filming in Door County.
The movie it's a low budget movie. It was not a big budget, and it's all about community. It's about people coming together and working together, and that definitely happened in Door County. The people. Church groups and civic groups were tapped to make casseroles for the crew and also that ended up in the movie. But everyone really came together, and it was really something.
Yeah, we've spent several summers in Door County, so I love it. That's where that was filmed, and so this has a run. Is there a opportunity for us soon to see this streaming once it's out of the theaters?
I don't know. I know that the producers have been talking with some streamers, but I don't have any of the details on that yet.
Gotcha. 'Cause I'm reading some of I love this review about this Packers fan who's in love with this film, and I think it draws on a lot. Like I mentioned, by the way, I went to a school in Chicago called Lane Tech, and our colors are also green and gold. So Chicago folks might be coming out not knowing that the Bears lose. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't want to give away the ending, but we know what happens when Brett Favre takes over. Because I was at the Brat Stop. Have you been to the Brat Stop in Kenosha?
No, I haven't.
Michael, maybe this is where I invite you to go volunteer with us for Fibs, Wisconsin. We stop there on our way home from, I go to Elkhorn, Walworth County Dems. But when the Bears are playing, and they show the Bears games there, because there's a lot of Chicago fans that live in the area. And when the Bears lose, they'll play, I'm sorry. So it's just like on every, and you're sitting there eating your cheese curds, going, yeah, that sounds about right. We ain't doing well, is all I'm saying as Bears fans.
Well, there's always next season.
Well, again, what do you want folks to know about the most in seeing this movie, Green and Gold? What do you hope people take away from this film?
It's the film is really about. It's kind of a throwback to, you talked about movies that were important to you when growing up. It's got a little bit of It's a Wonderful Life in it, and it's got a little bit of Field of Dreams to it. And it's really about, the movie's about hope and grace and community and how we don't have enough of any of those anymore. And it kind of celebrates all those things.
Oh,
so
man.
It's not, the story about the Packers that's just the frame for us to hang the rest of the story on. So I think the Chicago sometimes their review of it, they said it's so good even a Bears fan can like it.
Yeah.
And which warmed my heart. That just really warmed my heart because it really, it's not meant to be something that only to be viewed by, cheeseheads and scotties. It's something to be, I think that people throughout the country can enjoy. So
I love that. And so much of it is really just the love of family too and tradition. So all of it. It's really wonderful to know that somebody who started out wanting to, chase the bright lights of Los Angeles is like, Madison seems like a good place to settle down. I absolutely love your story. And congratulations on bringing your baby to life, essentially. Are you busy on your next project already, or is it, working on what's next?
I am busy writing right now. I've got a screenplay that I finished this past summer, and I've another one that's in the works. And so, so I've been keeping busy. That's very good.
That's great. I know when people, when they write, some folks are like, I don't know how you come up with these ideas, but when it pops into your mind and it just takes over, it's a really beautiful thing. So congratulations again. Yeah. And again, of course, and the movie is Green and Gold. It's out in theaters now. You can also go to Heartland. Is it heartlandfilms.org? I just lost the website. Is there any place you want to send people? Like any social media?
They can go to greenandgold.com. I see the website there, and I think that will also direct you to where it's playing.
There you go. Excellent. I appreciate that. You have a great night. I'm so glad we got to meet, and I'll talk to you again soon. If anything comes up, don't hesitate to reach out, and we'd love to have you back.
Thanks, Patty. This has been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. That's so exciting. Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation when we come back. Coming up at 6:30, we're going to talk to Gabe Roth. We're going to talk about Fix the Court. Oh, God, there's so much fixing to do. I hope he has some ideas.
Hey, Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Driving it home.
Not that button. We already started the show. I'm yelling at myself, folks. It's somebody else but me that hit the wrong button. I do have a question about that theme song because I do love it. It's by Steve Goody. Steve Goody, of course, one of the performers on the virtual comedy show every Monday night at 9 o'clock, virtualcomedyshow.com. And he'll be in town on March 6th, we will be performing at Tata's Tacos, Kitchen and Social on Irving Park Road. We are bringing back the comedy nights, but this time we're doing every Thursday. And we've got Paul Farvar producing, Adam Burke, who you heard filling in with Dwayne Kennedy recently. We've got Janice Rodriguez will be producing a show, and I will produce a show every single month. So every Thursday, there will be comedy at Tata's Kitchen and Social. We'll have more details soon, and look forward to having you all join us. I'm gonna. Let's take our guest right now because I think there's a sense of urgency that a lot of us are feeling. We're talking to Gabe Roth, who is the executive director of Fix the Court. Now, Gabe. First of all, Gabe, how are you doing tonight?
Hi. I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm at the point where I go, I'm fine. That's what I say to people when they ask me how I am. Fine. Everything's fine. It's great.
I feel you.
Yes.
I hear you.
So, first of all, I know we've spoken before, and I want to reintroduce you to the audience. Where are you from? Where are you from originally?
Originally from Nashville, but I went to school in St. Louis for undergrad and Chicago for grad school.
Okay.
So I've got a journalism degree from Northwestern, and then I've just worked in news for a bit, and then moved over to politics, and now I've been running my own nonprofit, Fix the Court, for about 10 years now.
Oh man! See, now my son goes to Chicago, and he was kind of thinking about journalism, and look, there's a lot of different backgrounds for undergrad that you can use to go in that direction. But I love that you took what a lot of us go, oh God, what's happening with journalism? And you said, I have a vision. What inspired you to create Fix the Court?
It was, a lot of it was just coincidence. So after I left journalism, I was working at a political consulting firm in D.C., and a lot of the clients that I had doing PR and consulting work ended up having cases in federal court. So we had a group of lawyers that wanted to close Guantanamo, which unfortunately is back in the news, that we did some PR support for. We had a group of folks working to strengthen the Voting Rights Act. We had a same-sex couple, that were fighting for marriage. And these are all clients of one of these big DC firms that I worked at. And all these issues came up before the federal courts. And with my background in broadcast journalism, I asked the question, why are there no cameras in the Supreme Court? Why are there no cameras in most, if not all, of the lower courts? So it started it was just trying to get broadcast access, live streaming. I mean, when I worked in Chicago, I just remember being so lazy at the time. I was in South Clark Street in the Dirksen building, which is or the Kluzinski building, where the Seventh Circuit is just across the street. And I'm like, why do I have to go there to cover whichever governor was being indicted at the time? It's hard to remember. I think it was Ryan. Why do I have to go across the street for jury selection? Why can't I just live stream it? So that sort of stuck in me. I was back in 2005, and I started Fix the Court in 2014. So that always sort of stuck with me. And then, I started just doing the live, pushing for the live streaming, which I'm still doing. And I mean, even today, actually, it'll be tomorrow that 5 of these these Trump orders and directives that are, that folks are trying to stop. 5 of the 35 cases are going to have hearings tomorrow, and each of them is going to be live streamed, which is good. But it's sort of expanded over time to add issues that where also the federal courts are really not up to snuff in terms of modern expectations of government transparency and accountability. So it's everything from a lack of strong ethics rules and recusal rules and conflict of interest rules to the fact that Supreme Court justices have life tenure and they really shouldn't have, and we don't know when they're appearing in public and who they're speaking with and who they're talking to. So, it started as just a sort of little project to try to get live streaming the courts, and it expanded to sort of a larger project to try to bring the federal judiciary, the entire third branch of our federal government, kicking and screaming into the 21st century.
Man, oh man, do we need it? And have you basically felt like you've earned a law degree through all of these experiences?
I do. When people are critical of me in the news, they'll say like, Gabe Roth doesn't even have a law degree, and it's like you don't need one to do a lot of the work that I do. I mean, I think you can learn via experience, and I've had good mentors. I've read as much as I can, and when people ask me to draft legislation, they're not like checking, what I got on my LSAT or whether or not I have a JD. They know that I've, someone that comes from, sort of a bipartisan background and can work with Democrats and Republicans, try to get to the right solution. And I'm pretty glad that I didn't go to law school because I'm doing more law than most of my friends who went to law school, and I am not in debt like them. So, there you go.
And, I don't know, how many of your friends are a little bit askew? I mean, like, I remember telling a friend of mine who was an attorney, he actually appeared in front of the Supreme Court twice, Greg Adamski, who had a lot of, so you know who Greg is? Yeah, who Greg was. We were friends, and then maybe someday we'll talk about this, maybe when you're passing through Chicago, we'll have coffee or something. But very weird connection there with Greg Adamski. But, I told him that I had wanted to go to law school, and wide-eyed, he said, don't do it. Now, here's, a wildly successful attorney who had a lot of high-profile cases, I mean, globally even, and he was like, he wasn't sure he had made the right choice. Are your friends like that too?
Yeah, no, a lot. I mean, my best friend does works in the family business, which has nothing to do with law. It's more, buying and selling different packaged products out in LA. I have another close friend who he works at CNN as a lawyer. So there is him. And another friend actually just saw today on LinkedIn, got, because too modest, didn't want to tell me, but just got promoted at Marriott. So doing law stuff. So another friend was in law, went into real estate. I mean, a lot of people, when I graduated college in 2004, were just getting the JDs because at that time, it was we were post the 9/11 recession, pre the 2008 recession. Economy was good. Law bonuses were huge. And for people, poli-sci majors like me that didn't know what they wanted to do, a lot of people went to law school. And I think, it's for the right type of person. It can be the right type of job, but, such a small percentage of your time is actually spent in a courtroom. That's what I love from growing up watching Law and Order and all these other shows. Yeah. Such a small percentage of your time is actually spent in a courtroom that to me, like sitting behind a desk and just typing out like 100-page briefs, which are not brief, not sure why they called that. Didn't go to law school, so I don't know why they're called briefs. They're long as hell. That's actually one of the big things that we're trying to do this year is make access to federal court filings free. Currently, it costs 10 cents a page to read a single sheet of paper filed by a lawyer in a federal court case on your computer. Even though it's a static PDF, the federal courts still charge you 10 cents a page, and they make like $150 million from Americans each year. Yeah, it's a system called PACER, and there's a bill that's going to be bipartisan. Hopefully, it'll come out next month to sort of change the way the payment system works. In that, for the average American, it'll be free. So that would be pretty exciting, especially given that we've got 35 different lawsuits filed against Trump directives. People's PACER fees are racking up pretty quickly in the early part of 2025.
Wow, and that money goes to where? To the branch?
To the federal courts. The federal courts use it for all sorts of things, some of which are illegal. There was actually a class action lawsuit against the federal courts because some lawyers got word that they were using the money illegal, and they won the case. So now they're sort of figuring out, how best to spend the money, but they're using whatever extra they make to sort of beef up their IT and beef up their security and beef up all these things, which I mean, that's fine if you want to do that, but be like every other part of government and ask Congress for that funding. You don't get this like slush fund, which you like say is for security, but in reality, like, maybe only 30 or 40% of it is going to that. So where is the rest of the money going? Like, it doesn't cost $100 million to run a website of static PDFs, which is all in HTML, the pages of dockets. Like, it's very, you and I could sit down over the coffee that we're going to have and pay a contractor $1 million to set it up, not 150. So, that's a big a boondoggle, and one of the many just things that, starting out, I never thought. I thought it'd be cameras in the court. I didn't realize it was going to be a pacer. Another big thing we're pushing this year is to strengthen the workplace conduct protections for federal court employees. A lot of federal court employees, clerks, judicial assistants, this is their first job out of college or their first job out of law school. A lot of people in their 20s, sometimes 30s, and there's a very strange power dynamics in courthouses. And so, a lot of these individuals are taken advantage of, and they don't have the same recourses in federal law that you or I or, say, a congressional staffer have. The judiciary actually lobbied to have themselves written out of a lot of anti-harassment, anti-discrimination, and whistleblower protection laws. So that's insane that happened, but it happened when, I don't know, like I was in middle school when it happened, so I, take no responsibility there, but it happened. And so we need to fix it. And, the part of the Me Too movement revealed that some of that harassment took place in courthouses. And this is sort of, we're following that to try to get to the point where the judiciary and the staff have the same protections that other folks in D.C. have. So that's another, again, no law degree starting out because I think we should all be able to watch the Seventh Circuit and the Supreme Court online, but now, doing some interesting things to try to make the courts more open and accountable.
Do you think, because I think about, I imagine all those memories I have and continue to have, seeing the portrayals of judges, right? From like Absence of Malice is one of my, not Absence of Malice, The Verdict. The Verdict is one of my favorite movies with Paul Newman.
Yes.
And also Absence of Malice is funny because that's a journalism movie. So I kind of combine those.
That is a journalism movie. It's all good. It's all good.
It's all
I mean, that's sort of one of the reasons that I got so interested in the courts to begin with is like I went to an oral argument at the Supreme Court, I don't know, 12 or some odd years ago, and I went to some in the Seventh Circuit down on the Loop, and especially the Supreme Court level, like they're all incredibly interesting and they're all really well done, and there's a ton of decorum and there's some pomp and circumstance. And you're sort of crammed in there. It's a pretty small room, and they try to fit like 430 people there on argument day. And so, in terms of when you stand and what the Supreme Court police say and what the marshal says and all the, in the bar, there's all these bar admissions, and then sometimes they read opinions in addition to hearing oral arguments. Sometimes they hear more than one oral argument in a day. And it's just a really impressive half an hour and a half, however long it takes, that every American should see. And I think, as much as I have a lot of issues with the Supreme Court, I mean, I think that especially right now, as, one branch of the government is trying to sort of, I don't know, change the way democracy works, and another branch of government is just abdicating its power to stop some of that. We really are relying on the court. So, I'm trying to buck them up to do the right thing in a lot of these cases. But, in each of these instances that I've been to the Supreme Court, as much as you may dislike a single justice or a whole set of justices, the actual process of deciding these cases, I think, is really impressive and something that every American should see. And it would, maybe make them a little prouder to be part of this experiment and want to uphold it more, because we're obviously at a very scary inflection point right now.
I wonder how much you have looked at and are working on the impact of whether it's the Heritage Foundation or people like Harlan Crow or any of the other influences that we have learned about. And it's interesting because there were pieces written over a decade ago about Harlan Crow, about the Heritage Foundation, about the Federalist Society. And I guess it just wasn't interesting or juicy enough for us to go, to even blink at the fact that there were all of these outside influencers like Mark Paoletta, who I don't know if you saw this, is now getting the spotlight on him because of the he's the legal counsel for OMB and that federal pause last week. So go ahead. I'm sorry, because he's had a lot of impact on this entire court. Anyway, yes.
He has. Yeah, no, I mean, if you're best friends with the justice, you get to have that impact. It is interesting. Look, the justices have been lobbied. They've had friends. They've had entanglements and prior experiences since the founding. I mean, there's, the famous case, Marbury versus Madison. The Chief Justice, which said, it's the provenance of the judiciary to say what the law is. Like, the Chief Justice who wrote that case signed some of the commissions that were at issue in that case, and he should have recused from that case. So, sort of the quintessential case that the Supreme Court has ever decided should not have been decided the way it was because there was a misrecusal. So, the ethics of the court are sort of woven into its very history. But to your point, I think there are definitely some malign actors that in the last few years have really ramped up this project, right? The things that conservatives could not achieve through the legislature or through the executive branch, they've decided that they were going to take on the project of changing the courts, and through some skill and some combination of that with luck in terms of when certain justices died and when certain justices didn't die or retire, they've been able to do that to a large extent. I apologize for the helicopters in the background, but that's living near the nation's capital. You get that a lot. Hope everyone's okay tonight. But so I think that that's. It's hard to understate that impact. I mean, the fact that, look, personally, do I think that Harlan Crow or even the Heritage Foundation or FedSop changed Thomas's mind on any single case? I don't think so. I mean, there are people that disagree with me. That's fine. I think that, the movement is where the movement is, and Thomas is conservative, so they're going to come to conservative outcomes. That being said, I do think what it is, having this sort of, the billionaire buddy system, as Senator Whitehouse likes to say, it just sort of gives a permission structure, or just makes it okay to sort of, push them, in that direction. So, okay, you're gonna it's one thing to decide a case 6-3 or 5-4 with the obvious conservative outcome. I mean, you're calling it originalism, but it's whatever the average conservative would want. It's another thing to sort of push the envelope and to write a separate concurrence or to write a separate opinion in a case that's 8-1 or 7-2 the other way. So sort of seeding the ground. So 5 years from now, we're overturning this landmark decision called Humphrey's Executor that doesn't allow the president to fire folks from, say, the National Labor Relations Board, which he did, which is illegal. Mm-hmm. But because there's some Thomas concurrence from 3 years ago that says, we should end this Humphrey's Executor case. Well, when the case goes to SCOTUS, as it inevitably will, Thomas is going to write a 6-3 opinion saying, the firing was legal. So that's something to look forward to. But I think it just gives this, in addition to helping the justices stay on the court, right? Justice Thomas, pled penury to a member of Congress at one point saying, too much, I don't know what the non-Yiddish word for tsuris is, but it's too much tsuris staying on the court, too much aggravation staying on the court. Why would I do this for a mere $200,000 a year or whatever the salary was? Yeah. So, that helps, keep them on the court and keep them happy and keep them fed. And so, and Scalia had all these trips. I mean, Scalia really pioneered the whole billionaire buddy program through a series of hunting trips during his 30 years on the court. And so it's Alito too, to a lesser extent, but overall, that is a really, so I mean, it's well documented. There's a group called Documented, actually, that documents it, and another group called True North Research, and a group called Court Accountability. These are the ones that have looked into it, and they really, along with ProPublica and us to some extent as well, but we're more nonpartisan. But I think that overall, it's definitely had a negative impact on American jurisprudence. think that most of what we do in this country should be determined by our elected officials, and they're not always great and they're not always perfect. But, I'd like our judges to hew between the 40-yard lines, to use a football metaphor, a few days before the Super Bowl. I think the judges should pretty much stay close to the middle of the field. And when you have individuals pushing for the justices in a certain direction, maybe, or pushing for appointments of individuals who would go in that certain direction, and the justices taking the ball and running with it to the far ends of the field, to continue the metaphor. Mm-hmm. I think that's a problem for the American people, and that's where we're at, unfortunately.
And there's the oversight, right? We talk about this. We talk about our own Senator Dick Durbin, and demanding more information and hearings and things like that, and really nothing coming from it, because it does appear to us that they're just simply untouchable, and our demands for accountability and transparency are just nonsense. That's what it feels like to us, and I guess that doesn't matter.
Yeah, the problem is that you have to, and especially when you talk on the Senate side, you have to be able to get to 60, right? You have a then chair, now ranking member Durbin of the Judiciary Committee sending in subpoenas to Leonard Leo and Harlan Crow, and it's one thing to issue a subpoena, but to enforce it, you really need 60 votes in the Senate. There are certain theories that maybe you could get a court to do it, or maybe that you could do it through 51 votes in some way. But most all business that happens in the Senate has to happen with the blessing of 60 senators. And there were only, I think, 51 Democratic senators in the last Congress, and 9 Republicans weren't willing to join with them. So, that's part of the problem. If I'm being honest, part of my job is I wish I could, I joke about this, but I wish there was a Sotomayor or a Kagan or a Jackson scandal just waiting to be uncovered that I could unleash into the world, and then maybe Republicans would care more about judiciary oversight. There isn't. There's very minor things at the margins that I've found in terms of gifts and speaking engagements and other things. But it's not to the extent that we've had with the conservative justices, namely Thomas Scalia and a little bit Alito. It completely pales in comparison. And if we're only doing oversight when the other side is acting impetuously, we're never going to do oversight, right? Any time that a judge, if you look at the lower courts, it's closer to even in terms of who is taking the gifts and the trips. It's still more conservatives than liberals, but it's a little more even. So, maybe there's hope there. But, unfortunately, we're at this sort of, bloodbath endgame that, I only care about what's good for my team as opposed to what's good for the country. And I think obviously we're seeing that now through some of these plausibly, if not obviously, illegal actions that the Trump administration is doing. But I think that sort of, has trickled across all 3 branches and has infected this sort of any desire to act in a bipartisan matter in judicial accountability. And that's been very, very sad to see.
Man, I could talk to you for an hour. And hopefully, and I don't want, you have a lot of work to do. This is a lot. How do you relax? I can't, knowing as much as you do, right? Being as close to it as you are, because so much hangs in the balance. And again, I know that you'd come at this from a nonpartisan point of view. And like you said, if there were a story to chase with any of the 3 judges that are considered to be liberal, I know that I mentioned Mark Paoletta. I know for every time they would question his best friend, his RV driving buddy, on these, yacht trips, and he's the one in the middle of that picture with all the bourbon and the Native American behind them. Every time, he would roll out this story about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and something about her husband, and then sometimes, it pales in comparison, the umbrage that they take. It's not even.
And what's so funny is that the examples that they have are liberal judges from the 60s or the 70s or the 90s. His Ginsburg examples are all things that she did or didn't do. So she said a few mean things about Trump. Okay, she apologized. But the other examples that he uses, her husband did some legal work for Ross Perot. Yes. Who's thought about Ross Perot in 30 years? Things, think theoretically, we're in a better place ethically, or we're moving towards a better place ethically. Obviously, again, big caveat, the last couple of weeks have sort of taken us back to the early 1800s. But generally, we think we're moving towards a more lowercase p progressive society, a more inclusive society, a more diverse society, a more ethical society, and then using a barometer of what was okay or what wasn't okay in like 1993 to compare to like the $500,000 yacht trip that Justice Thomas took a few years ago. Like it's just it's the wrong barometer, and it's by magnitudes of hundreds of times is what Thomas has done versus say someone like Ginsburg. Which is not to say that I haven't called out Ginsburg. He knows my address. He's more than welcome to go to fixthecourt.com and see all the nasty grams I wrote about Ginsburg in 2016 when she was calling out Trump. They're all there. I mean, But the point is that. Again, if it's we only care about this because, we only care about ethics when the other side is messing up. It's similar to what you've seen in the Biden administration. I mean, Merrick Garland, his DOJ, prosecuted Bob Menendez, prosecuted a ton of New York politicos who are all Democrats, prosecuted a congressman from Texas who's a Democrat, prosecuted Hunter Biden who's a Democrat. So I'm not saying that if Democrats go back in power, they should only go after corrupt Republicans. I think that would be ridiculous. But I just think that a lot of times Republicans only see corruption as a one-way street when it just really just impugns our entire democracy in ways that, especially at the Supreme Court level, could be irreversible.
Well, that's not what you said, but it's because their corruption is only one way. Anyway, I do want to thank you. Gabe, how do we support, we're talking to Gabe Roth with Fix the Court. How do we support the work that you do and learn more about what you're sharing with folks and pushing for when it comes to reforming our judicial system?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. We're just, fixthecourt.com. I'm just Gabe at fixthecourt.com if you want to chat. And on the website there's fixthecourt.com/sign-up for the sign up page, fixthecourt.com/donate. It's all on the homepage, and we're on Twitter and Blue Sky, and I think that's it. I'm 42. I can't handle more than 2 social media pages at a time. And my staff, they're all in their 20s, and I'm like, just enjoy. So like, if you have social media, just enjoy it. I don't want to make you do this for work. Like, I'll do it. I'll like put the updates in. I'm not going to, poison your mind with having to like see what the latest, Truth Social post is. So you're fine. But yeah, so we're on Twitter and Blue Sky at Fix the Court. And appreciate the plug and for the chat.
Absolutely. And thank you again. We look forward to talking to you whenever your schedule allows. And I really need you to do some self-care because this is a lot. You are in the
Super Bowl this weekend. My wife's a Chiefs fan. We're very excited.
Oh, excellent. Go Chiefs. I'm down with that.
Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.
There
excellent.
We go.
Well, enjoy. And we look forward to talking to you again. And if anything comes that you want to share with our audience, please don't hesitate. But yeah, we're going to beg you to come back. I'm just saying.
Thank you so much. Always great talking to you.
Thank you. Have a good evening and go Chiefs. All right. Let's take a quick break here. We'll wrap up in just a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul. Matt, call back. I was going to get to your call. I promise. I'm sorry. It was a good conversation. I had to keep going.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
Man, that was a great conversation. Also, I just, I don't know. I try very hard not to sink into despair because it is not useful. I believe me. I'm working on the topic we talked to Dr. Susana Flores with at the beginning of the week about radical acceptance, because we have to accept, and it doesn't mean I accept what's happening. I acknowledge that it's happening, and I try to find the ways that I can, one, just keep functioning with this madness, and what can I do? And I am very proud that there were so many people that showed up for protests all over the country. I'm glad that there are electeds that are standing up and demanding answers about what's happening in the Treasury with Elon Musk just, digging his fingers in and mucking things up with his 19 to 25-year-old, I guess, henchmen. These guys are in there with technology. They're plugging in their own equipment. They are rewriting code using artificial intelligence, and then they are using that coding to also cover up their tracks as to what they did is what's being reported based on what's being said, because there were high level officials from the Treasury Department that refused to let Elon Musk in on Friday. They said you can't have access. You don't belong here. And I don't know what I guess someday, when you and I, Lady B, are in our 60s and 70s, there will be some movie about those moments, those exchanges that where our democracy was attacked, our privacy was assaulted, and who was to blame and how it unfolded. Because I really I don't understand how Elon Musk has access. Like, what is the criteria for that? And that our electeds can't get any answers in regards to that. And there are even some Republicans who are saying that they want to know, what is happening. There were some conservatives that were concerned about the language that Donald used last night in regards to ethnic cleansing in Gaza, saying that 8 million Palestinians would be forbidden from ever going back to Gaza, that they needed to leave and never come back. And then today they want to tell us that what we heard, what he said, is not what he said. We're not doing that. We are not here for that. And that's just a few of the things. I mean, I don't know if you heard our guest, Gabe Roth, who said that there are dozens of cases that are already being brought. And I know that will continue to be the case. But that is what they're counting on, is us just spinning our wheels. The harder you hit the gas in the mud. And we've got to figure out ways, the deeper you dig into the mud with your back wheels. We got to get some kitty litter. We got to get some cardboard to get those tires out of the mud. And we have to get a grip on how we manage all of this, because and I'm glad that there are electeds who are finally standing up, and it does have to be to the point. If we get arrested, I mean, like as Americans, as people who want to call for justice, protesters get arrested all the time. It might be time I want to see what the reaction is when Democrats, and I'm sure MAGA will be so excited. They're salivating for watching. I'm glad there weren't fatalities at protests today, because I feel as though this administration is waiting for the opportunity and the reason to open fire. Right? They want to deputize organizations like, the Proud Boys and essentially the KKK. Because, again, I'm going to go back to this. If you think that Elon Musk wasn't giving the Nazi salute, then why did the KKK cheer him? Why are we in the KKK the one? They cheered him. They were so excited. I'm sorry, if you vote like the KKK does, I don't know how we have these conversations. I do want to thank folks for joining the conversation, including on Facebook. Now I can't get on Facebook. Roosevelt sent me a link, and I can do this. What is TPS? Over 300,000 Venezuelans could lose status, because those who come to the United States to work legally, it's a whole video. So you can find this. What is TPS on Facebook? Over 300,000 Venezuelans could lose status. I also want to correct the website that I was talking to Michael Graff about earlier, the writer and director of Green and Gold. It's, I got a message about this, about the actual website. It is greenandgoldmovie.com. That's greenandgoldmovie.com. I really think this is a movie the entire audience would enjoy. So thank you for the correction, Scott Marcus. And we've got to go now. And I want to thank our listener who said they're 72. And I was talking about talking too fast, and they said that my energy helps them. So thank you very much, everybody that texted. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great evening, Lady B. Thank you for everything, my love. And Randy Rhodes is up next, followed by Matt McNeil. Bye.